All right, welcome back to Southeastern 14. Here once again with the one and only Rory Whetstone. She's back, and you know what that means. We're talking Missouri. Rory, one of our great interns here at Southeastern 14, and she's been covering basketball, baseball for us, and Missouri's back in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that just feels right, doesn't it, Rory? So,
It feels great.
yeah.
It feels
So,
I'm so excited.
yeah, it's obviously if you're watching this, you're a Missouri fan and you've subscribed to our channel before, Chris and I have already done our video on the game, and um, I cannot legally pick Missouri because Missouri fans have made it very clear for me not to do that. They're really hard on this too. Like they're I thought about backing off, or like, okay, I'll pick. No, I can't.
Uh-uh.
So I can't do it. But we talked about this matchup, and I mean, this is, I think when you have like a 7-10 seed, like it's not a 1-16, right? It's a 7 and a 10. These teams are probably not that far away from each other in terms of what they've accomplished, but two very similar teams here, Rory. They both can score the ball. They both can shoot the ball. And so I think this will be one of the highest scoring first round games when you just look at what these two can do on offense. So it should be a lot of fun.
They're both over like 35% from three. Missouri doesn't always have the best consistency with the
Not away
three
from home. Yeah.
in the Alabama game. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be pretty high scoring. My one thing I'm looking forward to, though, is Utah State turns the ball over about 12, 13 times per game, and they haven't necessarily played the same caliber of teams, I feel, that Missouri has played.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still able to force about 18 turnovers a game. And I'm interested in seeing how Demoy Hodge is gonna show off again and pull off some steals. So
yeah, Demoy Hodge. I mean, obviously we've watched him all season long, but like just being at the SEC tournament, and was there covering it all week, and like just watching this guy up close, like right there on the floor, you just see how the hands, the quickness, like just everything he can do on the defensive side was a lot of fun. And I mean, he's one of the most entertaining players out there. Just with he can get a steal and he can go down and hit a three, and hit a running three. He hit a running three on the sideline too, right? Like you can just do a. I mean,
that was amazing.
So the guy's that good. There's a reason why you go back to Cleveland State. I don't remember the year it was. One of his first years there, I guess. But he scored, I think, 48 points in a game or something like that. Like this guy just 46. I'm going back now. It was his first season there, Purdue Fort Wayne, December 20th. That'd have been 2020, I guess, and he had 46 points in that game. But like this guy's just he's so fun to watch, and I think you're right. Like it's always like that's the hardest part for me when you get into like NCAA tournament is you can just look at stats and be like, all right, well that team does this well or they don't do that well, but it's like you also have to put that in the context of who they're playing for, right? Like the entirety of the like you mentioned, like Utah State, they don't turn over a ton, but they can turn it over, and it's like, well, now you're playing a team that you look, as we said before, it's not the greatest defensive team from an efficiency standpoint, but they can force turnovers. And I think it's always hard to kind of figure out how that balance is going to look in a game, a one-off game in a tournament, just because Utah State doesn't see this a lot. Then again, on the flip side, Missouri doesn't see a lot of teams that can shoot because the SEC is just a brutal shooting league. So it's like, Rory, you throw your hands up here and it's like, I don't know how this one turns out.
There's also that.
Yeah.
I also think them coming into the game and the like Utah State, I think, is predicted to win, which whatever. A little mad about that. No, I think it makes them play with a chip on their shoulder, and I think that's what helped them when they played Tennessee in the SEC tournament, with Dennis Gates not being named Coach of the Year, with Demoy Hodge not being on the All-SEC defensive team. And they came in the game against Tennessee and proved everybody wrong and beat them again, and nobody thought they could. And they put up a fight against Alabama, not throughout the entirety of the game, but they put up a fight. So I think playing with a chip on their shoulder, they prove people wrong often, and I'm interested in seeing how that goes against Utah State too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was looking at the opening lines. Yeah, I think they were the only team that was an underdog from the SEC to. The lines have changed since then. Like, there's always a lot of swing movement on the betting odds, just because people jump on one side or the other, but I think I want to say maybe Auburn and Iowa's moved to like a pick 'em, so there's not really a favorite there. But like this was the one, some people are like, wow, Missouri's the only team that's an underdog, and they're the 7, Utah State's the 10, and I think you're right though. Like this team, that's been like their thing is when you start to count them out, just when people were starting to think, all right, they're about to start going, backwards. I think the Auburn loss was one, right, where they were like, they fell to 7-6 in the league, and people were like, okay, well, Missouri's about to come back down to earth. And well, it's like, what do they do after they lost that A&M game? They come out and win their last 4 and beat Tennessee. And like you said, they hung with Alabama for a little while, but I mean, Alabama's Alabama. They just, eventually make shots, and it's just hard to beat them. But so I think that's having that edge. Like this team is just, they're all that way. Like, I mean, what was that? I saw the comment Gates made or something. Someone tweeted out. I think it was like after they beat Tennessee, he was going into the tunnel or whatever it was, and it was like, not bad for a bunch of mid-major guys.
I did see that. Yes, I did.
That was, but like that's how they think, right? And so I like that. Like they don't outwardly say it, but like internally that it's on their mind that they're being doubted, and they're going to be doubted by a lot of people going into this game despite being the higher seed. So,
and they just want to prove everybody wrong. I think they want to prove people wrong too, that they were given a 7 seed. I'm not too thrilled about that one either.
I think it should have been a 6. Yeah.
That's really what I thought. I won't get too much into that because then I'll just go off on a tangent for like another 20 minutes. But I wasn't too thrilled with that. I think that they proved that they could have been ranked higher, especially after 2 wins against Tennessee. They finished 4th in the SEC. There are some teams in front of them that I don't necessarily think should be in front of them, but it's fine. I'll leave that.
I think we know who you're saying, but look, you're gonna have a lot of Missouri fans watching this, so you're not gonna get the backlash because it's mostly gonna be Missouri fans.
That is true. Yeah.
So, no, I'm with you. I mean, it's like we said. I think Chris and I have talked about this a lot. We talked about it like in our live show as we reacted to the bracket. Like it's just the committee loves them some metrics and then the computers.
The computer does not love Missouri.
They don't.
They don't.
They just don't. And this is like one of those games where this is the ultimate like computer versus, eye test, because the computers love Utah State, absolutely love them. And so I think you're going to find out here, which way is going to win out. And I think it's just always so hard because, you look at, and this too, like we talked about, it's pretty clear the tournament committee does not value the SEC tournament in any way, shape, or form. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. I don't know that your seeding changes. I really don't. Like, I think it was set before the tournament, maybe even on Friday. Like, and that, of course, that's when Missouri played its first game. So they can say what they want about, well, we don't set it until, hour before. That's not true. Like, it's set. And so, yeah, I thought Missouri, as we said, should have been a 6 seed. But at the same time, I mean, if you look at the other, I've got to pull my bracket up here because I'm like, this is one of those years where we are 3 days into knowing what the bracket is. I still could not tell you. Like, I'm like, is this the South? Is this the East? Like, who are the teams around? Like, it's just there's so many things to keep up, especially when the SEC, has 8 teams in. Well, now 7 because Mississippi State's done. But I was looking, I was like, okay, Missouri got the 7. They're playing Utah State, but like, if you look at the other 10 seeds, well, they don't want to. I would. They got to love not playing Penn State because
I was nervous about that one. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that's the one I think they didn't want any part of. The other 10 seeds, USC, I don't think would have been a terrible draw. Boise State, I like Boise State. So, like, I don't know if that would have been the best one either. But, so, like, it was – we'll find out, right? If Utah State's hitting shots, we may look back at this and say, anybody but Utah State. But, I think it's – They probably got a better matchup than they could have. Like I said, the Penn State to me was the ultimate worst case scenario just with how they're playing. Of course, A&M got stuck with them, which everybody knows. We've already talked about that. That's another story for a different day and why that happened. But so I don't, the path to continue on in the tournament, Utah State's going to be a tough just because they can hit a lot of threes. They got a lot of guys who can shoot. But Arizona, I think Arizona's good, but I think Arizona is probably beatable, even as the 2 seed. So it's just a matter of, can Dennis Gates work his magic? And you said it a minute ago. It's just, can Missouri hit shots away from, Mizzou Arena. Like that's the big thing.
Exactly. So. They just need to follow through on that consistency because they'll go on a stretch of games where they just look unbeatable and they hit every shot they take and then they just go cold for like a couple games, and that just can't happen right now. Yeah. And that would just be incredibly unfortunate if it does, because I have them going kind of far in my bracket. So.
All right, we're gonna reveal it right now. How far do you have them going? We're gonna see how much the bias is in play here. You don't want to tell me, do you?
The bias is very in play that I have them in my Elite Eight.
Okay, well, look,
I have faith.
Okay, so you've got them beating Utah State. Then I assume you've got them beating Arizona.
I have them beating Arizona, and then I have them playing Creighton, because I have Creighton winning against NC State, Baylor winning against Santa Barbara, and then Creighton beating Baylor, and then us beating Creighton, and then losing to Bama.
Listen, I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world, because remember, even if I thought it could happen, let's all remember I cannot legally, contractually pick it to happen. So you can. You don't have that. You don't have the pressure on you like I do. So, I've been banned on Twitter from picking Missouri, so I cannot pick them to go that far. But I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world, because it goes back to what you said. They are entering as an underdog, as a 7th seed. I think they will play to that. It's just the defense. I just want to make sure that they play defense, because
the defense.
Yes, it's the usual stuff.
It's always there.
Right? And I mean, you're playing a really good offensive team. So if they defend, I do like their chances against Utah State. Even though I got to pick Utah State to win, but I like their chances. Let's not take that too strong of a phrase. I don't want to upset anybody, but Arizona, kind of obviously a team too that can score, but I also, like I said, I think they're beatable. So not out of the realm of possibility. If they are in the Elite Eight, we're gonna clip this part of the video, and you are gonna go viral on the internet. Like, we are gonna make it clear first. Like, you called it if it happens. So, hold on a second. Who do you have in play in the Elite Eight?
Bama.
The rematch.
Yeah, the rematch.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't hate that. That's good for business. So, Alabama versus Missouri, that gives us more SEC teams to talk about. So that would also guarantee that one SEC team would be in the Final Four. So,
also true.
So I wouldn't hate that. Well, we'll see. Obviously, an early tip time for Missouri on Thursday as they play in Sacramento, and we'll tip off at 10:40 local time in Sacramento. So that's a bit of an early start, but we will see kind of what's. I don't have any data on Missouri's record tipping off at 10:40 local time, because they haven't done it this season.
No.
So it's just adjusting, I assume, to that. But I think sometimes that can be overblown as well. But there is where things sit with Missouri heading into the NCAA tournaments. Rory has Missouri in the Elite Eight. You heard it here first. So if it happens, thank her, because she's the one that made it happen. So we'll see, though. It's a difficult path. I will say that they have to defend, they have to rebound, they have to guard shooters, and there are going to be some shooters in their path if they're going to make it to that point. All right, Roy, before we wrap up, baseball. You've been hard at work covering baseball as well for Missouri, and hey, they continue to roll right along. But the most important thing now is that we're about to actually play SEC games, and everyone's been waiting on that, right? And so that's going to start this weekend, as Missouri's going to host Tennessee, the number 2 team in the country. We all kind of know what the Vols are capable of. They may not have the same, hitting power they had last year, just given the remarkable season, but this is still a really good team. We know what the pitching can do. So it should be a lot of fun to kind of see. I think this is a good test for Missouri, although we talked about it, like that first series of the year was a good starting point to kind of see where they were. But now that you played some games in between that, you play, again, either the second best team or, arguably maybe the best team with LSU in the conference. This should be kind of a fun start with this 3-game series against Tennessee this weekend.
I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm also excited to watch Tennessee play, just as a baseball fan in general. But I mean, they've been on a hot streak lately. They dropped one game over the weekend. It was in a doubleheader, but still dropped a game. It broke their winning streak. But they're hitting well. They've had a homer a game for a decent amount of time. Actually, I don't know if that maintained over the weekend, but they did entering the weekend. They're batting like 305 as a team, somewhere around there. And they've got a bunch of hitters. They've got both Loviches, Zeisler, Trevor Austin. And I think if they can keep their momentum up and build that, no, it's not the same caliber of teams as Tennessee. But again, they went into the tournament at the beginning of the season and proved people wrong. It's kind of the same theme here with both basketball and baseball, but yeah. I'm excited. I'm interested in seeing how it goes. I think they have a shot.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, I mean, like we said, Tennessee is, I mean, you know, again, to be the number 2 team in the country, you got to be able to do a lot of things well. And I mean, you know, Blake Burke has been hitting the ball. You know, Chase Burns, those guys. I mean, the pitching from Chase Burns and all those guys. I mean, there's a lot to like about this Tennessee team, and that's why I think it's going to be pretty fun to just sort of see, you know, against a team like this. You know, we talked about like the first series of the year. It was one game against those teams each. Like it wasn't a series against one specific team, right? But now you're getting into this against the top competition in the country, because we know the SEC is the best conference out there, and so actually getting a 3-game sample size against one team, you know, like this caliber, I think that's just such a great measuring stick for Missouri. And so I'm curious, because you know, like we said, Missouri's been one of the talking points of the SEC to this point, just given what they've accomplished, and I think they caught a lot of, you know, eyeballs after that opening series to start the season. But now it's just, you know, things get a little tougher, because they open against Tennessee, then the following weekend they go to South Carolina. You know, and South Carolina's another team that I think, you know, I think South Carolina's ranked 16th, but like they're 16th in the country, but like, you know, that's the SEC for you. They're probably the 6th or 7th best team in the SEC maybe. And so it's like, so I don't know. I mean, this is a great opportunity for Missouri, and like you said, they've got some interesting pieces that are starting to come together and have thus far. It's just, can you do it against a team like Tennessee? I think, you know, certainly winning the series would be a huge achievement, but also maybe just getting a game in there somewhere against a team like this would be an accomplishment.
That's exactly what I'm hoping for. I think if they're able to pull off one win, I think it'll mean a lot to them, especially like you said, because they're going to be playing South Carolina, and then you've got Vanderbilt and the other SEC teams along the way. So I think if they're able to get one win against second-ranked team in the nation like Tennessee, it'll give them a lot of confidence heading into the rest of their season in their conference.
Yeah, Kentucky's another one of those teams they've got early in the schedule. Like Kentucky's 15-2. Like they're one of those. And I think Chris doing our baseball power rankings, like Kentucky, I feel like has been at the bottom, but like they are 15-2, and it's just, you know, again, it's the change in pace and the change in competition, and seeing, you know, how teams like a Missouri, how a team like Kentucky and those kind of teams can hold up now that you start playing better competition. So should be a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll see what Missouri can do on that. So, all right, Rory. Well, you've got 2 teams that have a chip on their shoulder entering the latter portion of the week. You've got Missouri and Sacramento trying to do that against Utah State. You've got the baseball team in Columbia there trying to do it against Tennessee. So quite a theme that you have tied together there, and I agree with you. It's both will try to use it to their advantage, and we will see what happens on that. All right, Rory, before we wrap up, you've already told me your Elite 8 pick with Missouri.
Yes.
Now I need to know your Final Four, because Chris and I are going to reveal our Final Four tonight on our live stream. So I've got to know yours so we can compare it once the tournament's over.
All right, I've got Alabama and Marquette against each other. I like Marquette as a team in general. Also a little biased with them. My mom went there. I've always been a big Marquette fan.
Okay.
So there's a little bias there, but I do love the way Marquette's playing. They won the Big East. Don't count them out yet. And then I have Texas and UCLA.
Ooh, okay.
I can't have Kansas in the Final Four.
No, I figured that. That's like I was joking about this. Like the Missouri fans, and if you saw the poll I put out, I asked them who they wanted to win the West, the top part of the West bracket, and it was either Kansas, Howard, Arkansas or Illinois. And as you would expect, Rory, let me pull up the results here. There were
I wonder
approximately
what the answer would be.
There were approximately, let me try to find it. Trust me, I've got to find this because it was so good. And Missouri fans did not let me down because they knew exactly what I was doing with this poll. All right. So out of 799 votes, Howard, 73.1%. So everyone rooting for Howard if you're a Missouri fan. Here's what I wasn't sure. What I was most intrigued by, who was going to get the lowest amount. That was what I was really, who do you hate the most?
Good point.
Arkansas got 12%. Now, here's what I think. Here's my thought here, Rory. I think Arkansas fans jumped in this poll and they voted for Arkansas. I think that's what happened. But Kansas got 7.8%. Illinois got 7.1%. So actually, I would have thought Kansas would be at the bottom. Not much of a split there, but both around 7%. So Howard, a lot of new Howard Bison fans in Columbia, Missouri, heading into this tournament. I assume you're one of them. So,
yeah, honestly, I don't have Kansas in my Final Four, but even as a non-Mizzou fan, I don't know. I don't
think they're going to get there,
and I think they're very good. Don't get me wrong. I think they got clobbered by Texas. The fact that Bill Self, I don't know what that's going to look like throughout the tournament. I don't know. I think just watch out. I don't know.
Who do you have Kansas losing to?
UCLA.
Okay, so you have them losing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you've got them getting that far. I think some people have either UConn beating them in the Sweet 16. I know Arkansas fans have them beating Kansas in the second round, but that's not a surprise. But yeah, so I could. UCLA is an interesting team, and I know this is not a UCLA show, but I could see it. I told someone this, and I will reveal it here. So if anyone wants to, if somehow someone is watching this and they are a part of my sister's work bracket pool, I did fill out my sister's bracket for her at her request. Okay. She asked me to fill it out. I filled it out for her. I had the same Final Four as you did. I had Alabama and Marquette. I had Texas and UCLA on her bracket. So we will see if that's what happens. And you've got who winning it all?
I have Alabama.
I think so. I think that's the right choice. So you sound thrilled at that choice. But
I feel like I'm betraying Mizzou by picking Alabama, but it's Alabama. They're so good. And I feel like they're going to keep that up.
Here's what I think. The ultimate Rory scenario and Missouri fan scenario is there's only one way this tournament can play out. It's for the ultimate high for Missouri fans. And that is for Missouri to advance to the national championship game where they play Kansas and Missouri wins the national championship by beating Kansas. There you go. That's it. That's it. That's what you're rooting for. Although, like we said, I think a lot of Missouri fans rooting for Howard as the 16 to beat Kansas. Yeah. So we'll see if that happens. I would not bet on that one if I were you, but hey, I don't want to.
You never know.
You never know. It's happened before, right?
Was it 6 years ago?
It's happened before. We could have never said that for the longest time, but it's now happened. And by the way, Rory,
for example,
you know who coached the team on the 16 that beat the 1 in Virginia? UMBC beat Virginia. The 16 seed beat the 1. You know who the coach was?
I actually don't.
The current head coach of Utah State, Ryan Odom. So, I mean, he's off the screen now. But look, this is.
I didn't know.
This is a completely different scenario. So don't get too worried. All of a sudden, Rory is struggling. She's going to redo her entire bracket now.
You will find me in front of a TV at 12:40 tomorrow with the most anxiety I've ever had watching this game.
All right. Well, that was on me. I should not have put that on you, but the more you know. So there you have it. All right, Rory, let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter, all that stuff. I know you're going to be hard at work, again, watching basketball, watching baseball. A lot of great stuff you're doing for us. So, yeah, plug anything you would like.
Twitter is rwhetstone7. I'm sure I'll be retweeting stuff throughout tomorrow's game and throughout the tournament in general. My anxiety will be in full force tomorrow, and I will be in front of a TV all day. This is my favorite time of the year. And I'm excited for SEC baseball conference games to start up. I'm excited to see Tennessee and Mizzou, and I hope you guys like the content I'm pushing out. So thank you.
Yep. We appreciate Rory as always. And yeah, be sure to follow her on Twitter. A lot of great stuff coming, both here on YouTube and on the website. So be sure to follow that. And we appreciate you guys watching as always. And we'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14.